Hello. Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Los Alamos. I'm Kelly Dolejsi, today's worship associate. And today, while our regular minister, Reverend Tina Dio, is away for the month of August, taking professional development time, we are happy to welcome Reverend Jenny Amstutz from the Columbine UU Church in Littleton, Colorado. Reverend Jenny has served as the minister at Columbine UU Church since 2021. She's married to Jason, mother of 3 teens and 2 young adults. Last year, she and Jason bought their retirement home in northern New Mexico, and since then have enjoyed spending 1 weekend per month enjoying the beauty and slower pace of New Mexico. In her free time, she enjoys caring for her pig, goat, and dog, hiking, and relaxing with family. Reverend Jenny enjoys visiting the Los Alamos congregation and is excited to reconnect with our wonderful community for the first 2 weeks of August. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your image of the holy, you are welcome here. If this is your first time with us, we'd love to get to know you. Please sign our guest sign-in book in the foyer. For kids, we have our activity table up front. Seems to have been discovered. That's great. Kids can also stay seated with their grown-ups. Please remember to use your whisper voices. If you would like to know more about our programs for kids, youth, and adults, please speak to Elizabeth Portillos, sitting out front, our Director of Faith Formation. We also have a nursery down the hall for younger kiddos, and Sarah Hamud, our nursery coordinator, can check them in. We have our Candles of Community area over here and in the back. You are encouraged to come up before the prayer and meditation time to light a candle and write your joy or sorrow in the book to be read aloud. Oh.
We come together as Unitarian Universalists every Sunday to pause and to worship together. Worship creates connections within, among, and beyond us, calling us to live with wisdom and compassion, calling us to be our better selves. Our worship theme for this Sunday's worship is generosity. And our call to worship this morning was written by a UU minister who also serves in Colorado, Reverend Chip Roush. He writes, "Deeper than DNA, more fundamental than molecules or quarks, at our living core, we are wholeness and transfiguring love. We often forget that power, becoming lonely or resentful, comparing ourselves to others, acting out of our fears, rather than living out our glory. Occasionally, we rouse from our trance to remember our wholeness. For a time, we embody unsentimental love. We make efforts to wake others and to remain fully present ourselves. Our lives and our time here together are made sacred by our striving. So for the next 60 minutes and for the rest of our lives, may we be more aware of the spirit of life evolving through and among us. Come, let us worship together."
Amelia will now read our chalice lighting words, and Jocelyn will light our chalice. Our chalice lighting today is a poem titled, "May My Heart Always Be Open to Little" by E. Cummings.
May my heart always be open to little birds who are the secret of living. Whatever they sing is better than to know, and if men should not hear them, men are old. May my mind stroll about hungry and fearless and thirsty and supple, and even if it's Sunday, may I be wrong, for whenever men are right, they are not young. And may myself do nothing usefully, and love yourself so much more than truly. There's never been quite such a fool who could fail, pulling the sky over him with one smile.
Today we have a reading. Our reading is an excerpt from Generosity by Columbine UU member David Welch. People often see life in one of two ways. Some believe life is like pie. If someone else receives a bigger piece, there must be less left for them. Others believe life is more like a garden, something that grows richer when seeds are planted, tended, and shared. The more seeds we plant, the more flowers bloom, not just for one person, but for everyone who walks the path. Even in winter, a faithful gardener knows life is still at work beneath the frozen ground. A rose may not bloom in January, but its roots are quietly preparing for spring. Generosity works much the same way. The deeper truth is this: generosity has a way of enriching the giver as much as the receiver. A warm meal shared around a table somehow tastes better than one eaten alone. A helping hand has a way of reaching back to steady the one who offered it. A kind word spoken at just the right moment can echo through someone's life long after the conversation has ended. Maybe that's because generosity isn't about losing something. It's about planting something. Plant hope, grow kindness, harvest joy. Every act of love is another rose planted in the wintertime, trusting that spring will come. That's a song worth singing. Those are the riches that remain long after winter has passed. The greatest inheritance we leave behind is rarely money. It's memories, it's mercy, it's love. Like the fragrance of a rose long after its petals have fallen, love lingers in the lives we touch. Maybe generosity is less about what leaves our hands and more about what grows in our hearts. Every loaf shared, every shoulder offered, every prayer whispered, every door held open, every meal delivered, every tear wiped away. These things matter more than we know. The world may never applaud them. Heaven notices every one. So keep planting, keep singing, keep giving, even when the harvest feels far away, especially then, because kindness has roots deeper than hardship. Love outlasts fear. Hope outlives the storm. A single rose blooming in the winter reminds us that God's grace is never limited by the season. Every generous heart leaves footprints that time cannot wash away. When all is said and done, people won't remember every goal we reached or every possession we collected. They'll remember how we made them feel, whether we welcomed the stranger, whether we fed the hungry, whether we offered hope when someone else's light had almost gone out. The richest people are not always those with the fullest pockets. They're the ones with the fullest hearts. So live with open hands. Love with an open heart. Be willing to become a rose in someone else's wintertime. You may never know how deeply your kindness is needed. And remember this little chorus whenever life gets hard. Give what you can. Share what you have. Love while you may. The beautiful thing about generosity is this: the more you give away, the more of yourself you become. Long after winter has faded, the roses you planted in the hearts of others will still be blooming.
David's going to be really proud when I tell him that we shared his words here today. It is really wonderful to be back with you all, and I'll be here next week as well. Last Sunday, back in my home congregation, I shared this reflection on generosity in the context of our modern American capitalist society. I thought David's words kind of were nicer, sweeter than what I have to share, so buckle up. I've been thinking about how some of these values we share can be used in a light and easy way, or they can have some teeth. Generosity is one of those values we think, well, of course, if you're a good person, you're generous. But we are called as Unitarian Universalists to take it to the next level, to consider what generosity means truly and how it can be a disruptor of systems of inequity. We live in a capitalist society. Capitalism is a competitive system, and the object is infinite growth. He who dies with the most toys wins. Capitalism doesn't preclude generosity, but it doesn't exactly encourage it either. If you win at capitalism, then you get to decide if you want to share some of your wealth with the less fortunate, or if you want to use it to help solve social or environmental problems. With wealth comes the power to allocate resources according to your judgment of what makes a better world. David Beasley, the director of the United Nations World Food Program, has called on billionaires who have the resources to fight hunger in the world to do so. He claimed that by allocating only a small fraction of their resources, they could save millions of lives by feeding millions of people, and that a unified effort could eliminate world hunger. So far, none of that elite group has chosen to take him up on this offer. And while some ultra-wealthy people like Warren Buffett, Bill and Melinda Gates, Mackenzie Scott do give much of their fortune away, in a capitalist system, we find that the call to generosity has not always been answered to the degree that social problems are being solved and all people have food, water, shelter, health care, and education. The Carnegies and the Rockefellers made some pretty good strides in normalizing philanthropy for the rich, but ultimately, wealth accumulation isn't serving the common good. In fact, quite the opposite. Capitalism does not reward systems for sustainability. It rewards short-term gain without a longer view. So despite the incredible wealth in our country, we have unhoused people in our streets year-round, hungry people, people without health care, and the gap between rich and poor continues to widen. In a democratic system, the generosity of voters determines how common resources will be allocated to help or not to help those in need. Democracy can be used to put some bumpers on the disparity of wealth, or it can be corrupted in ways that create more inequity. Our UU Covenant of the Shared Value of Justice reads, quote, "We support the use of inclusive democratic processes to make decisions within our congregations, our association, and society at large." Our UU faith is deeply and historically rooted in democracy. And yet lately, I don't know about you, but I've had my faith in democratic governance wobble a bit. An uneducated or misinformed electorate, or one plagued by the ravages of racism or cult-like non-rational beliefs, those folks don't always make the best decisions. And humans are not inclined to take the long view. And we are wired for tribalism. I've realized that democracy in and of itself does not preclude an equitable society. Instead, it is democracy in conjunction with solid core values that determines if an electorate will choose to vote for sustainable, equitable use of resources, or if it will perpetuate inequality. To create the world we dream of, a society of equity and justice, democracy works best when citizens value generosity. Capitalism is based on competition and individualism, survival of the fittest, and not concern for the most vulnerable among us. It is not concerned with multiculturalism or justice or liberation. Our democracy can amplify this dog-eat-dog way of thinking, or it can be used as a tool for compassion and inclusion, an expression of respect for the inherent worth and dignity of each citizen, each non-citizen, and each person. True generosity disrupts systems of control. We are so programmed to be transactional. Sure, I'll do that for you, but what are you going to do for me? Or I'll give you that, or I'll fix that, but you have to use the resources I donate in the way I tell you to. That's kind of baked into capitalism. If the point is getting ahead, then I'm not going to waste resources on anything that doesn't get me ahead. True generosity is a completely different way of thinking. It's the opposite approach to the world, one that requires some faith in the non-tangible wealth and stability and satisfaction. Our UU covenant of the shared value of generosity reads, "We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality." Our UU covenant disrupts systems of control because true generosity is not transactional. And it's also not easy. For example, when we speak of making reparations for communities who have had their land or their freedom stolen, often people want to put restrictions on how that money is spent. But true generosity removes the leverage of the giver. It's kind of culturally something we're not used to, counterintuitive. True generosity supports the inherent worth and dignity of other people. It's a way of redistributing power, and it also dismantles this paradigm of scarcity. It ends dependency. But none of that liberatory outcome is possible if generosity is performative or if it's conditional. It's like if you give your adult child a new car, but then you demand to know where they're driving it, and you make them feel guilty if they didn't take you to your appointment, and then you get other people's admiration for what a generous parent you were. That's actually not true generosity. And let's be honest, so much of our generosity has quiet, invisible strings attached. The great theologian, podcaster Mel Robbins points out, if generosity comes with strings, then it's a leash. Generosity can be used as a tool for control and for maintaining the status quo. It can be performative, manipulative, patronizing, and often in the case of white people helping non-white people, generosity can actually cause harm, or at the very least perpetuate systems of control. Sometimes white saviors think we need to rescue in ways that are not respectful or liberatory, ways that maintain the status quo. But true generosity is an act of faith, a liberatory act, one that builds horizontal ties and shows respect. And this is why generosity made the top 6 shared values of Unitarian Universalism, because it is a difficult and countercultural spiritual practice in trust and letting go. It is a necessary ingredient in our mix of values if we are truly committed to building beloved community. Giving freely is an act of revolutionary love. It demands no compliance, no hidden rules. It allows people to use their own judgment and make their own decisions. It is an act of faith. Now, the word faith has been hijacked by bad religion, and sometimes I think you use bristle at the word, thinking it means you're being asked to believe something. And at the risk of being run out of town with pitchforks and flaming torches, I'm asking you to believe in something not scientifically provable. I'm asking you to have faith that if we stay anchored in our shared values and in generosity, that things will work out. We can loosen our grip on resources. We can trust in interdependence. We can trust that true generosity will liberate the oppressed and the oppressor. This is what we mean when we say revolutionary love. It is a love that's willing to risk it all for our faith in goodness, generosity, pluralism, and interdependence. Now, I can't prove to you that leaning into the flow of trusting generosity will bring you peace and build the world we dream of, but I can ask you to have some faith. Capitalism is logical, survival of the fittest is logical, and it works if the goal is to create billionaires and rapidly advance technology and conquer and exploit every corner of this planet. But we can see how ruthless individualism can become pathological, destructive, elitist, and cruel. This is where our faith is not wimpy. It is a call to revolutionary love and inclusion. It is a completely different way to approach life than what we have been taught. We are programmed to be transactional. If you are someone who identifies as a white person, particularly a cisgender man, then you have been deeply programmed to believe that you know what's best for other people. And the act of giving freely requires that we step down from our little pedestal and we let go of some power. We covenant freely and compassionately to share our faith, presence, and resources. That is the covenant we have all entered into as UUs. And it's not easy. It's countercultural. Unitarian Universalism isn't actually a liberal social club. It is not a place we come just to feel good. This is a place we come to be called both into comfort and into discomfort, into exploring new frontiers and the aches and pains of transformation. Our UU faith calls us to take a breath and notice what's in here. I'll tell you what's in here, a secret that won't be a secret anymore, but when I think about generosity, I realize I'm not always the most generous person. If you ask my family, if you take a bite off my plate, I will unleash demons upon you. There's something in me that's a little bit greedy or hoardy. And definitely the wolves of generosity and stinginess are fighting within me. So for me, generosity is something I have to really work at. And when I do, the universe rains abundance upon me. When I perform generosity for the wrong reasons, I also get taught some lessons, which I'll share one with you. When my oldest son, he's 26 now, was a kindergartner, his dad was visiting from England, so it was a cold day in Denver, and we made some hot soup and some bread, and we took little Devin out on a cold winter day to distribute soup and bread to people on the streets. Now, his dad and I were super proud of ourselves that we are such awesome parents that we were teaching our son to be generous. So the next day I passed by the spot where I had given the soup and bread to a guy standing on the street corner, and there was the soup and bread lying in the ditch, and the guys were over in the liquor store. They didn't want soup and bread. They wanted beer money. And of course, I was mad. I was indignant. But looking back, I realized that I was giving away soup and bread to show myself and my son and my ex what a great mom I am. That I had not been actually interested in what those guys wanted or were asking for. I realize now that wasn't true generosity. I was not aware of their inherent worth and dignity and autonomy. Generosity requires listening and serving without strings attached, without judgment, without savior mentality. True generosity is an expression of our belief in the inherent worth and dignity of other people, and it is humble. It is an act of faith and an act of letting go. A professor of economics at the University of Manchester once made a semi-serious joke that the Tories were not loved enough as children. Now, in the UK, generally, the Labour Party supports social welfare programs, whereas the Tories tend to be more fiscally conservative, more lift yourself up by your bootstraps type of governance. The professor speculated that this mentality was tied to a childhood where there just wasn't enough. Not necessarily a lack of food or money, but a deep underlying sense of scarcity. Now, of course, that's a politically divisive statement bound to upset people, but I remember it because it begs the question, why do some people have more of an abundance mentality than others? Why do some people have more faith in generosity? Often we hear stories of people who have almost nothing, the poorest among us being the most generous. Generosity doesn't seem to correlate to a person's resources, but instead to their overall approach to life and the world. And it begs the question, if we love people as fiercely as we can, will that inspire others to be more generous, to have more trust in each other and in the abundance that is here for all of us, if only we relax and let it flow? There is enough for everyone. Not for everyone to be greedy and hoard resources, but there is enough for everyone to be safe and fed and housed and loved and free. That is my statement of faith, and I can't prove it. My math skills aren't as good as David Beasley, the guy who actually calculated how much money Elon Musk would need to donate to end world hunger. But I have faith. I choose faith because I have to, and we have to. We can't give up. People are being cruel and sick and greedy right now. Rugged individualism and white supremacy and Christian nationalism are all currently just pumped up on steroids and running rampant over innocent people. And they have claimed the hearts and minds of gullible people and scared people, and people whose strong suit is not critical thinking. So what do we do about that? Well, we can keep on speaking our truth with courage and patience and kindness. We can love people. Not kidding. We don't have to take guff off of them, but we can love them. Renae Good's last words were, quote, "That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you." In the spirit of love and inclusion and courage and generosity of heart, may each of us find that love, that voice of love and lightness and trust. May each of us find our true generosity and live it in a way that hits the reset button of tremendous social change and spreads love in our world. Blessed be and may it be so.